Hey, everybody, and welcome to the ninth installment of Trippin with Theobold. I'm your host, Andre Theobold. I go by AT. I go by Dre. I go by Dre Theo. And I'll probably have more monikers as life continues. But anyways, in case this is your first time joining me, the show is called Trippin with Theobold because I trip literally and figuratively. All right, like I grew up with a speech impediment, a real bad one. I don't know how I'm doing this shit right now, but it's not gone all the way. Like I'm gonna have hiccups, I'm gonna have things that I do, but I have to own it, So that's why I literally trip in speech, and I figuratively trip in thought, right? Like I be tripping when I think. I be tripping, I think about crazy shit. I'm unique, you know. Um, so, anyways, that's why it's called Tripping with Theobold. This is the ninth installment. Um, so or ninth episode. Um, and another thing too, right? So whenever I get hung up on my words, or if I trip on my words, I'm gonna do something funny. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do yet, but I'm gonna have like a little button, right? It's either gonna be something. I'm either gonna say "Come on, Dre," or I'm gonna make a funny face, or I'm gonna do something like that, or I'm gonna say, talk. I'm gonna say, see, I didn't stutter there. It was like I was just talking too fast and I cut myself off. So I'm gonna say something like either "Come on, Dre," or I'm gonna say, "Nigga, go talking to the tape," you know. And if you want to know why I say that, you got to go back and watch my other episodes. I forgot which one I talk about it in, but basically, yeah, you just gotta go back. I'm not gonna rehash it right here because we have a lot to talk about today. But what else? Before I get started, I wanted to do a little bit of a promotion or whatever, right? And plug people, So got my shirt on right now. I got my no anti-black racism shirt on. Got to break it out, man, because we in some tough times again, you know. And we gonna talk about this on this show. We gonna hash this shit out on this show, because I got a lot to say, and not I have a lot to say and not a lot of time to say it in. So, it is what it is. And but by the way, I got this shirt from Tariq Nasheed on his site. Excuse me. So I got this shirt on. What else? I found this company on Instagram, man. It's called, I think they're called the Black Brand, and it's spelled BLK Brand. And they got these little dope dad hats, man, and they're pretty creative, So the one I'm wearing right now says "I'm okay" from far away, but if you look up close, it says "I'm broken," right? So I like it because it has like a positive spin on it. It's like, I was broken, but now I'm okay. So dope hat. What else do I got? Got this water bottle off Amazon. It's called Keep to make sure I drink my water like I'm supposed to every day. Because I've been drinking other stuff like juice and whatever, and that's not healthy. Like past a certain age, So I got to make sure I stay hydrated. I got to make sure I stay healthy, So this keeps track of how much water I'm drinking every day, or it keeps me on pace to make sure I drink a reasonable amount of water and shit, So, but yeah, that's something real quick I'm gonna do. But let's go ahead and get into it. So, for the say what portion of the show, like this is the portion where we talk about all things speech impediment related. Didn't really have a whole lot to say today on this. All I will say is I will check in and give an experience that I had this past week, right? So I was talking to my boy and I had my Bose headphones on, and I don't know why, but I was like really trying. It's like I guess I didn't care, but I had my Bose headphones on, and if you listen to my previous episodes, you know that when I talk with my Bose headphones on, like I have a hard time because it blocks out all the sound around me and I can't even hear my voice like reverberate within me, you know. And I think that I think a big part of speech is not just the mechanics of moving your mouth; it's how you hear shit, you know. So if things are not reverberating within you, and you can't feel the shit like in you, like that was kind of weird. If you can't feel the vibrations or the frequencies internally, you know, I think that has a big part in why people may or may not stutter. That's just my theory, you know. But anyways, I had my Bose headphones on and we were talking, and man, I was struggling. Man, I was struggling. Like I gotta set up a hidden camera somewhere so y'all believe me, because I think maybe one of y'all. I mean, I don't. As of right now, people aren't really watching this video, but when they come across this video, they're gonna be like, "Yo, what are you talking about?" You know, some people might be like, "Nah, you don't have no real problems with your speech." Yes, I do. Some days don't work for me, you know. But nah, man, I had my headphones on or whatever, and I was trying to, you know, talk, and I was like struggling, you know. And it's weird because if I know I'm being watched, or if I have a camera on, or if I know a camera is there, come on, Tracy. I kind of like you saw the tension in my lips. That was kind of me getting ready to fuck up, but my brain caught me and was like, hey, not today. But anyways, the where was I at? Yeah, so if I know I'm being watched or if I have a camera on me, it's like I'm gonna be on my best behavior. But if I don't have a camera on me, or if there's no mirror around me, it's like, and I don't see what I'm doing, and I got my Bose headphones on, yeah, it's gonna be a bad day. But anyways, that's that. I don't wanna harp too much on that, because like I said, we have a whole lot of topics to cover, man. It's been a long week. And once again, my apologies for not getting this out on Thursday, because you know work is starting to pick up and I have some deadlines I had to meet. I had meetings all day yesterday. Wasn't able to get this video recorded, but here we are now. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the DFS stuff, because we're gonna breeze right through this to get to the subject at hand. So last week in DraftKings, I said that my Theobold prediction of the week was going to be, or my Theobold prediction of my last episode was Jokic. I said Jokic was going to get me 70 points at least last week, right? So last week was the 8th, right? Oh no, last week was the 9th. Because yeah, I did this on the 9th. And Jokic got me 67, so that's not too bad, you know. He trophied, you know, so I said at least 70. He got me 67. It's not too bad of a prediction. But let's go ahead and look at my lineups now for today, right? So today is April the 16th. And as y'all know, I do tiers right now, right? Because I used to do the whole money shit. I used to do the like, you know, the whole like the traditional DFS where you know have like a salary cap of $50,000 and you have to pick the best lineups. But that takes a lot of time. It's very time consuming. You know, like you have to like know what you're doing. And I know what I'm doing, but it's like I can't sit there and spend an hour on picking a lineup. You know, I can't. I don't got time for that. You know, like that's maybe on the weekends I might bring it back, but right now I just do tiers, right? And if you don't know how tiers works, basically in baseball I think they have 6 to 8 like tiers of players that you can pick from, and in basketball they have 6 tiers of players that you can pick from. And what you have to do is they give you a handful of players to pick from, right? So the higher you go up in the tier, the less there is to pick from, right? So for example, in tier 6, you might be picking from 8 players. And then in tier 1, you might be picking from anywhere from 3 to 4 players, you know, and those are like the better players, right? So, so I do that because if you can't get that right, then you're not going to get the traditional fantasy shit right. You know what I'm saying? So I already picked my lineup. So because I think last episode I actually picked the whole lineup, or I picked the whole I picked the whole lineup last episode, and it took a long time. And I'm like, I don't want to have it be too lengthy. I'm just gonna tell you who I picked and why I picked who I picked. All right, so let's go with this baseball, right? So for today in baseball, there's 6 tiers, right? And the games for today are, so we got St. Louis at Philly, we got Arizona at Washington, Tampa Bay at New York Yankees, we got Cleveland at Cincinnati, San Francisco at Miami, Chicago White Sox at Boston, and Baltimore at Texas, Pittsburgh at Milwaukee, Toronto at Kansas City, Mets at Rockies. Oh man, I already see something. So when I do baseball tiers or any baseball DFS, the first thing I look for is the weather, right? The weather is like an injury to me, because in baseball, if that rain don't let up, they will cancel that game or they will postpone it. And I've been in situations where I was on the brink of winning $100 off of $1, and I picked a player that was in a rain delay, and I was hoping that the game would start up again, and they were like, "Nah, it's rain. No, we don't play in the rain like that." So when I do tiers or any baseball DFS, I stay away from the rain and the weather. So we have a situation right now where I'm gonna have to make a modification to my lineup because the Mets are playing at Colorado, and the weather report said it was gonna snow. So they'll play baseball in snow, but they won't play in rain. So I'm gonna have to make an adjustment there, right? So I only pick players that are either playing in domes or cloudy weather or sunny weather. Even when it's cloudy, I might stay away from it. But right now we have 1, 2, 3. We got 4 rain games. So let's go ahead and let me run down the lineups for y'all. All right. So in tier 1, actually let me actually work my way up to the top. Let me work from the bottom. So in tier 6, who do I got? Tier 6. Tier 6, I went with Tyler Naquin. Hope I said his name right. Naquin. Tyler Naquin plays outfield, number 12, bats left. But why did I go with him? So I went with him because it's not a rain game, right? The game is supposed to be partly sunny. That's the forecast for the game. But I went with him because when I looked at the data, right, he's due for a double-digit fantasy point game. All right. So I typically, what I do is I do either the pinky or the thumb method, right? And what I do is I look at when the player last scored double digits, and I put my pinky like right above that number, and I look to see if another double digit comes on the other end of the pinky. You know what I mean? And actually right now, scratch that. No pinky method today. So today what I did, I just looked at his frequency, right? And basically he doesn't really have he doesn't have a long track record of having a string of single digits, right? And zeros. So he typically goes single digit, then 2 double digits, single digit, then 2 double digits. And right now he's on 3. So that means he's overdue. So he's overdue. So that's why I looked at all the other players in that tier, and I got to go with Tyler Naquin. And let me see what he's ranked in the tier. And he's at the top of the tier too. So, I mean, when he goes off, he goes off. So that's why I'm going with Tyler Naquin. Now, Charlie Blackmon, I went with him because his batting average is shit. His batting average is 154. But anyways, I went with him because of the same reason, right? He had 2 games where he hit double digits, and he typically Well, last time he went 3 single digits in between 2 double digit games. And right now he's at 5 single digits. But I'm not going to pick him today because of the weather, right? Like I said earlier, the forecast was snow for that day, but now it's rain. So, over here, we don't do the rain shit in baseball. Like, we don't play rain baseball. So we take that player out because we're trying to get this money. So who else is in this tier? So in tier 5, no one from St. Louis, Philly, no one from the Washington game. Oh wow, this might be interesting. Okay. I thought I was gonna have to like force a pick, but I'm not going to. So let's look at Marte, Starling Marte, and Mike Yastrzemski. I never heard of him. Wow. Anyway, Marte is so Marte's batting 326. Miami, I don't think has any pitching, So actually no, he's going up against San Francisco. My bad. He plays for Miami, going up against San Francisco. So San Francisco might have pitching, but he's batting 326, and he's only had 2 consecutive games with double digits. So that's kind of a stretch right there. Let's take a look at Yastrzemski. Yastrzemski is only batting 154. And what else is going on here? Yeah, he has a long string of single digit games. He just came off of a 20 burger game, so nah. What else? See, was no one from Baltimore. How about Pittsburgh, Milwaukee? Wow. So I'm gonna have to go with Starling Marte. Wow, I don't like that pick, but got to do it. So Marte's in there. Let's save it. So, word to the wise: when you're picking your lineups or when you're modifying your lineups, make sure that you save your lineup as you go along, because DraftKings, man, I think what they do is I think they know who's gonna win, and when they see you start picking that lineup and your roster's not filled out and you don't save it, it kicks you out the app and then you got to redo it all over again. So save as you go along, like Microsoft Word, So here we go. What else we got? Okay, here we go. So for tier 4, I went Bryce Harper. He's only batting 231, but I went Harper because the longest, I got to come up with the term, but basically he has a string of single digits, and his single digit string is only 3, and right now he's at 3, and after that he hits like double digits, right? So I got to go with Harper. An interesting thing too, right? I picked a lot of Reds today, so I hope this works out for me. I picked 3 Cincinnati Reds, but whatever. So tier 3, I got Mike Moustakas. He's batting 289. And I went with him because basically he follows every, so when he scores in between 4 and 6 fantasy points, he typically follows it with either a 14 or a 20 point game. So he hit 5 last game, so I'm banking for that 20, hoping for that 20. Then in tier 2, I went Nick Castellanos. He's batting 306, plays for the Reds. That doesn't mean anything. I'm just telling you who I picked. Same thing, like it's kind of scary picking this guy here because he can, like, when he gets in the funk, he gets in the funk, right? So when he puts up 0 fantasy points, he can follow it up with another 0 fantasy point game. But 0 to me is a single digit or whatever. So he typically follows single digits with like 20s and teens. So I'm trying to win the bread. So I went with Nick Castellanos. Plus, there wasn't really much else to pick from. Who else was in there? Yeah, I looked at Trey Turner's numbers. His numbers didn't look good for me for today. Jose Abreu. It's going to rain in Boston today. Francisco Lindor plays for the Mets. It's going to rain in Cleveland. And then Trevor Story is on the Rockies, and it's going to rain in Colorado. So, yeah, I had to go with Nick Castellanos. And then in Tier 1, I went with Juan Soto. That's my dog, Juan Soto. He's batting 378. I'm a Nats fan, and the data looks good, So, yeah, basically after a single digit game, he puts up like 20s. So, got to go with Juan Soto today against Arizona. So, that's it for my baseball lineup. I don't have a Theobold prediction for baseball yet. It's still kind of early in the season, but hopefully this lineup can win for me. And let's look at the details, right? So the entry fee for this contest was 25 cents. It has like 3,500 contestants or entries, and grand prize, first overall prize is $75. If I can win that 75 off that quarter, then I'm gonna start doing the dollar games and the $5 games, right? So you gotta build. You gotta build slow, right? You gotta build. You gotta start small, right? Like, don't get out there and go throw your money all out there and lose all that shit, because you gotta know what you're doing, right? It takes skill to do this. All right, so let me get some water because my throat's getting a little dry. Man, I'm behind schedule too, because right now it is 8:30, and I'm supposed to be working on 10 o'clock water. Oh, I hope you didn't hear that. Sorry. Man, it's good. Now the key is I can't drink too much of that water, or I'm gonna go to the bathroom, or I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom, and I'm trying to just shoot this one shot. I ain't trying to hit no pause. So let's go look at the NBA tiers. So NBA tiers, here we go. So what I did with NBA tiers, man, come on, Dre. So what I did with NBA tiers was I didn't look at, I looked at the data, but I looked at another site. I look at this site called LineStar, right? And if you know anything about Lines, if you don't know about LineStar, go look it up. LineStar gives you different data. Like they give you more graphical data, right? So you can see what was projected for the player for that day, what they actually did. You can look at the history of the rankings. And I don't really trust the rankings in LineStar, because the LineStar rankings don't really match what DraftKings has, right? Like, for example, if you see a player that's playing against a top ranked defense, right, like anywhere from like 1 to 9, it's going to be red on DraftKings. But then if you go on LineStar, the shit might be green or it might be yellow. So that yellow, it's like you have to like really use that carefully, whatever, right? But anyways, the method I used to pick my players today was I looked at the previous game. I looked at the last 2 games, right? So I looked at their actuals for the last game and the previous game, right? And I looked back and I traced that to see if I could find another match through the data. And I looked at what the following game was, right? So, for my tier 6, I went with Anthony Edwards, the rookie. Right. He's playing against Miami. I know that's a tough order, but for example, he went 40. So yesterday or on the 14th or previous game, his actual was 36. Then the game before that was 44. So I'm looking for a 44-36 pair or a 40-30 pair, right? So 40-30 after. So I found one 40-30 pair, which is 38. Another 40-30, 60 was the following game at Phoenix, which is hard because Phoenix has good backcourt defense. Then 40-30-40, right? Then 40-30-36. And then 40-30-20. That's the thing I'm worried about is the 40-30-20 against the Clippers. So that was that. But when I looked at everyone else, like he had the most, like, he had the highest ceiling, right? So that 60, if he can get that 60, that would be amazing. But I'm not counting on that. I'm cool with getting like low 40s because everyone else, their ceiling was nowhere near 40 for that when I applied that method, right? So who else did I get? Yeah. So then in tier 5, I got yeah, in tier 5 I got DeMar DeRozan. Now DeMar DeRozan is real tricky to pick, man. You got to know when to pick him because he can go off, but he can also shit the bed too. But anyways, so his last pair was 30-42, right? So 30-42 is what we're looking at. So we got 30-40-55 against Atlanta. Who else? 30-40-50. So yeah. So that's the thing, right? So another trend that I've learned in like fantasy sports or in like in DraftKings or whatever is when things happen once, they can happen again. When they happen twice, they might, there's a small chance it might happen a third time, but after the third time, it's probably not going to happen again, right? So he hit that 50 twice after following that 30-40, right? So I got to take it, man. I'm not going to be left out of that 50. So matter of fact, my Theobold prediction is DeMar DeRozan will score at least 50 fantasy points at home against Portland. All right. Then who else we got? We got Bradley Beal, tier 4. Had to go with my boy Bradley Beal. Wizards fan. So he's coming back off injury, I think. Or he's trying to get back. He's trying to get back into the swing of things. So his last two pair was 48-41, right? So let's see where we're at. So 48-41. So I see 48-46, 54 against Boston at Boston. Wait a minute. No, sorry. 48-46. He got 58 against Minnesota. My bad. And that was at home against Minnesota. Then what else do we got? Oh, yeah. Then there's 45-45, 70 at New Orleans. Then there's 40-47, 54 at Brooklyn. So, yeah. So, Bradley Beal, I'm locking him in that tier. And he's playing New Orleans. So, he's from New Orleans, but it's at home in D.C. So, I think he just has a thing where he wants to always play well for the city of New Orleans. So, yeah, I got Beal giving me at least 55, at least. Yeah. And then tier 3, I got Vooch. I got Vooch on Chicago. Vooch done took that team over, you know. So let's look at the numbers for Vooch right quick. See what Vooch is doing. So Vooch went 46-54 last two games. So I'm looking for mid-40s, mid-50s. So 40s, mid-40s, mid-50s. Let's see what I got. 40s, 50s. Where are we at? 40s, 50, 45 against Boston, at Boston. 40, 50, 40 at San Antonio. 40, 50, 62 at home against Dallas. 40, 50, 77 at home versus Chicago. Yeah, I think that's why I picked him, because I'm hoping for that 77. All his other numbers are not trash, but when he puts that 40, his 40-50 pairs are trash, but that 77 is enough for me to go off on the limb. Like if he put 77 up, just throw your whole lineup away. So I got to go with Vooch on that one. And then I'm not going to really go through the process for the other ones, but I went tier 2, I went with Zion Williamson. And then tier 1, I went with Jokic. So once again, my Theobold prediction of the week is DeMar DeRozan is going to get me that 50 or better in tier 5. So there we have it. Let's see if we can't, win some money, because I put $1 in this one, and the details are it's like 9,000 entries, and first place prize is $750. So if I can win 75 off baseball and 750 off of hoops and get that 8, I had a good day. I had a great day. So anywho, let me go and put this aside. So okay, let's go ahead and get to the topic of the matter, right? So this is like a special edition show, I guess, because I typically have a strict format that I follow, but I'm throwing this one in here because we're in some turbulent times again, right? So Minnesota, what the fuck is going on, man? Minnesota, man. Wow. So here we go. All right. So I grew up a big MacGyver fan, right? And what are the odds that MacGyver, he actually had a season in Minnesota where he lived in Minnesota on this little like boathouse. But that's neither here nor there. But MacGyver had this quote, or he had a quote from the show that I kind of like took to heart, and the quote goes like this: "Only fools are sure of anything. The wise keep guessing." Let me repeat that again. Only fools are sure of anything. The wise keep guessing. All right. So, I'm outraged, mad, upset about, what's going on in Minnesota. But as you know, from my DraftKings history or my DraftKings and how I pick players and stuff, I look at the numbers. I look at the data, right? I read the numbers, and the numbers are what they are, And to me, it's very troubling / interesting how we're on the third killing of a black man in a routine traffic stop, right? So we have Philando Castile, then there was George Floyd, and now it's Dante Wright, right? So to me, I'm not going to say whether it was orchestrated or not. I'm just going to say, if you look at the numbers, I wouldn't be surprised, right? Just look at the stats, right? It happened 3 times in Minnesota, and we're on the George Floyd trial right now. George Floyd's not on trial. This is the Derek Chauvin trial, right? So we're on the trial, right? There's no, they're not even at the point where they're going to even reach. They're still in trial right now. And Dante Wright got killed while this trial was going on. So one could argue, right? One could argue or postulate, that this happened or this was staged because just look at what it does, right? Everyone's focused on Ken Potter and Dante Wright right now, right? Everyone's focused on that. And they're not really focused on the Chauvin trial, right? So what this tells me is when people's focus is over here, that means that there could be some bullshit that goes on with this trial where this dude could just get up and walk, right? And maybe it could be a tactic to prevent the country from catching fire or catching on fire when the verdict come out for Chauvin, right? I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying when you look at the numbers and you look at where shit is trending, right? Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, must be a motherfucking duck. All right? So, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm not saying that's the that's the game plan. I'm just saying that looks very suspicious. Right? I question shit. That's what I do. I question everything. And people are like, yo, Dre, man, why are you being so difficult? What? Because I don't trust y'all motherfuckers. Like, you got a lot of people out here running around getting vaxxed. Cool. I mean, everyone has a right. Go out and do what you feel you need to go do. Not judging. But to me, what I don't like is, I don't like when people say with certainty what they've done. I don't like that. You know? Like, I don't like when people say, oh, yeah, I got the Pfizer, or oh, I got the Moderna. You don't know what the fuck you got. You got some shit that someone else told you what they put in your arm. Right? I'm not trying to cause disinformation. I'm just saying, can you prove it? Right? So I think a more accurate response to the whole vax thing would be, you know, hey, I got stuck with something in my arm. They said it was Moderna. That's all you can say, right? See, people need to be accurate when they talk. See, people just, okay, whatever. Excuse me. Let me calm down, Dre. Calm down. All right, so, but yeah, so back to what I was saying, man. Like, you know, only fools are sure of anything. The wise keep guessing. That's how I live my life, you know? But what else, man? Another thing I had to say too is about the chick, Kim Potter that killed Dante Wright. She said that, well, it's on video. It's not. There's no conjecture. She said tase him, and then she shot him with the gun. So she said that she made a mistake by shooting him, or she thought her taser was her gun. When a taser is yellow and a gun, whatever. I don't believe that. Like, I don't see how that happens, right? So anyways, what I was saying is this, right? It's like, if you're that, and everyone's going around saying, hey, if you're that scared, you know, you shouldn't be a cop, right? I'm going to take it a step further. If you're not willing to die for the law, like if you don't have pride and are willing to die for the law, then you should not be able to enforce it. Like that law has to be your shield. You should have pride in that law and applying it to everyone equally, regardless of race, of height, gender, whatever. Just the law is the law, right? And to me, it's so, man, it just, the judicial system, man, that should be pissing me off, because they got that lady with the blindfold on, and then she has the scale or whatever to weigh out justice. And to me, it's like, if that's what they want justice to be, then why do jurors get to see who's being prosecuted, or who's under the microscope? Like why do the jurors get to see that? That shouldn't matter. Look, whoever's on trial, the jury should not be able to see or know the race, the height, the size, the gender of the person. They should just be looking at just the law itself. And what they should even do is they should hire actors to come in to play the people, random people to come in So that way, if someone is white or if they're a female, the law gets applied to them the same way, right? Like let's go back and look, for example, at Botham John, right? If Botham if the if Botham John broke into the chick apartment, whether he was a cop or not, and shot her thinking that he was in his own apartment, hug or no hugs, that motherfucker would be doing life. So I'm just saying, man. I'm like, yo, that's something that. Come on, Dre. That's something that yeah, that's just something that really gets to me, or gets under me, or gets under my skin. Like I said, I'm at a point right now where I try to I'm at a point in my life right now where I try to um how should I put it? I try to just use logic, and I try to think, and I try to be fair. I try to take emotion out of everything, and yeah. What else we got here, man? So let's go on pause this right quick. Okay, yeah, I'm back. I had to use the restroom and shit. And I wasn't gonna be doing this whole show holding it. So we back. Um, but yeah, so there's a lot. Like I said, man, we're in some really scary times in this country, man, because clearly the people that live in this country see things through a different lens, and we're living like we're living in two different worlds right now. So um I don't know. Like I said, I really don't have a lot of hope. All I do is I say, look, this is what it is. you know um how do I adapt to it? How can I adapt to this? So because I'm being dead honest, man. Like when it comes to like routine traffic stops, like that shit scares the shit out of me. Because I might not make it out. I feel like I really can't. So I don't want to speak on behalf of police officers, but all I can do is speak on behalf of me because I experienced me, right? And um, I'm at the point right now where um, I feel like things are so. I don't know. I really feel like things are so tense right now, where it's like me as a black man, I feel like there's so much pressure to do one thing out of a million things, just not to end up getting shot. You know what I mean? Or killed. I've been stopped by the police before, and my interactions with them have not been good at all. There's been some that were okay, but for the most part, they've been shitty. Like, I've been like I had cops try to bait me. Like, I'll get pulled over, and they'll be like, "Hey, your headlights were out, and it's nighttime now." It could, like, for example, I had a situation where I was driving. The sun just went down, but it was still light outside. And supposedly there's a rule, or a driving rule, or a law that says when your street lights are on, when the street lights are on, your headlights have to be on. So I had an older car, and it was still light outside, so my headlights didn't cut on. So I was driving, I was doing the limit. Cop pulled me over. I pulled right on over, and he was like, "Hey," your headlights, weren't. Well, he was like, "What did he say?" He said, "Hey, you know why I pulled you over?" I was like, "No, officer." "Oh, because your headlights weren't on. And when the street lights are on, your headlights have to be on." I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that. Sorry about that." And I cut him on, right? So, when I was actually turning on my lights in my car, it was like a pull button, right? It was an old school car where I had to like pull the button out, and the knob was missing, but I just had like the little stick part. So he had his flashlight in my car watching me do it, And he was like, oh, hey, that's a safety hazard. You got to get that fixed. So I'm just going to write you up for a warning. I said, okay, officer, no problem. I'll get it fixed first thing in the morning. So he must have thought I was trying to be sarcastic, but I wasn't. I was just trying to, I was complying and trying to cooperate. So he just says, I'm going to need you to step out of your car. I said, excuse, like, how do we go from my light to me? So I didn't say all this, but I'm thinking this internally. So I just asked, why do I have to get out of my car? He said, look, I'm gonna need you to get out of your car. So I asked him again. I said, why am I getting out of my car? This fool said, look, don't make me ask you a third time. Get the fuck out your car. So at that point, my heart jumped out and I said, let me just do what this motherfucker saying. I got out of my car and this dude searched my car, searched my glove compartment, under my seats, popped the hood. Like, he basically had me there for like 30 minutes, like searching my car. The whole stop took like 45 minutes because my headlights were out, So my thought process or my fear was, he's trying to find somebody and I might fit a description. And if he can't find who he's looking for, he's going to plant some shit in my car to say it was me. That's what was going on in my head at the time, So luckily that didn't happen, but he didn't have probable cause to search my car, and this is where shit gets real tricky for black people. All right. This is where shit gets real tricky, right? Because you have to, when you deal with cops, right? And when you know that your rights are being violated, you have to show physical compliance, but show verbal non-compliance, right? So, and I don't want to say non-compliance, but I want to say, you have to state, so basically you have to show, like physically show that you're complying with what they want you to do, but verbally to cover your ass. So when, the shit goes to court, it's a slam dunk case for your lawyer, So like, if a cop asks you to get out of your car with without probable cause, don't try to have a conversation with these motherfuckers, man. Don't try to. Cops do not know the fucking law. They do not know. The cops are not lawyers. They're not there to discuss the law. They're there to enforce their little piece of the law that they're given, right? So, so what I do, I'm not saying I'm gonna make it out alive when I do it, but what I do is, first thing I do is I act like a prisoner of war, right? That's the first thing I do. I try to say as little as possible. I don't want to have a conversation with these dudes. I try to remain calm, and I try to give yes/no answers. When they ask me to do something that's unconstitutional or is violating my rights, like for example, like searching my car without probable cause, I will say, look, hey, I do not consent to getting out of my car. I'm slowly unbuckling my seatbelt, and then I'll unbuckle my seatbelt slowly. Once again, I don't consent to getting out of my car. I'm unlocking my car. I'm opening my car door slowly. I do not consent to getting out of my car. Right? I make sure that I reiterate, like, what I'm not giving, that I do not give them consent. Because what's going to happen is when it goes on record or when it goes to court that they violated my rights, it'll be a slam dunk case for the lawyer to go and do it. But I'm physically doing what they want me to do. But it just depends on the cop you get that day, right? Like, you might get a cop that says, I don't give a fuck about all that shit. I'm trying to just take you out, period. Right? Or they may see us like rodents or like roaches and shit, and they just say, oh, we gotta get it out of here, So that's whatever, man. So, as I said earlier, if you are not willing to die to protect the law, then you shouldn't be enforcing it. It's that simple. And there's ways to test for that, But anyways, I want to kind of take a detour away from that because I get I get frustrated talking about those kind of things because it's just as a tax paying citizen, this is shit that we shouldn't have to go through. Um, but yeah, we can fix everything else, but we can't fix this shit. So whatever, man. Um, I want to talk about race a little bit too, right? Like this is something that also um kind of gets under my skin, right? Social studies and geography has failed the American people. Social studies and geography, like social studies and geography is proof that they want to indoctrinate people and not educate people, right? Um, so you have a lot. The thing that gets on my nerve the most in this country, in general, is people that people that mix race and nationality. Like that's my biggest pet peeve, man. I hate that shit. Um, like when people start talking that kind of talk, I just, yeah, man, my brain just shut down. Like my brain just, I'm like, whatever. I gotta go take a shit. I'm gonna holler at y'all later, right? Like for example, I was dating this one chick, you know, um, and she was like going through and describing like what type of men she likes. So she's like, oh yeah, I like me a nice Jamaican man. I like Jamaican men. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Okay, cool. You might like the. Okay. I'm like, okay, you might like the culture. You might like whatever. That's cool. But then we were out somewhere, and then she was describing this dude, and she was like, oh yeah, the Jamaican dude down there, and blah blah blah. I'm like, Jamaican dude. Like, how do you know he's Jamaican? Oh, well, he's dark skinned and he has the dreads and the dreadlocks. And I was like, are you serious? Jamaica is a country. It has a flag. Okay? Um, it's a nationality. Jamaican is not a race. It's a nationality, right? For example, I learned this when I was young. I learned this shit when I was a toddler. I learned it not a toddler. I learned this when I was 9 years old, right? My folks used to take me to Barbados every summer, right? And when I was in Barbados one summer, I think I was like 9 or 10. I was in the ocean, and I went under the water, and I didn't have any little goggles and shit, So like I used to swim. I used to swim with my eyes open, and the salt water all got in my eyes, and I came up, my eyes were burning. I couldn't open my eyes up. But as I'm trying to get my eyes clear, I'm hearing people talk around me, and they all sound the same. All these dudes sound the same. They're all just talking around me, right? And then when I open my eyes up, I see a black Bayesian. I see a white Bayesian. I see a brown Bayesian. I see a red Bayesian. And I'm like, oh, I get it. Nationality is not race. Like this is a country, right? Race is color, nationality is flag. All right? So and I get irritated with this shit because I feel like I have to dumb myself down when I talk to people so they know what I'm talking about because it's so accepted. It's like I'm trying to think of a good example of it, but it's like it's technically not correct, but we just kind of go along with it because that's what everyone says because everyone has their brain turned off. So the same with like Mexicans, right? Like I don't like calling brown people that look Mexican because Mexico is a country, right? Like if me and another black chick go to Mexico and we drop a seed in Mexico, that kid is Mexican, right? Which leads me to the next part of my frustration, which is, okay, if the kid that we have in Mexico is Mexican, why do we have to clarify that it's a black Mexican and everyone else can just be Mexican? Right? So, like, the whole race thing is just real. It's just not consistent. It's very it's not consistent. You know, see, here's the thing, right? I don't hate nobody because of their skin color, race, whatever, right? Um, Now I know that when you preface that, people are gonna say, "Oh, well, that's the sign that you." I don't. I just want to make sure that my words are not taken out of context. All right. So one thing I struggle with is, and I know we're in this time right now, right? We're in the Stop Asian Hate time right now. So um, I have to make sure that I use like my words carefully or whatever. But I come from a good place. Like I'm trying to seek understanding, right? So I remember when I was growing up, like we used to just call people that looked Asian, we used to say, "Oh, they Chinese," right? And that's ignorant. That's stupid to do that, right? Because um, there's other countries that have like that person might not even be from China, right? Or they might not even be Chinese, right? So it's like we're assuming a nationality based on what they look like. So that's dumb, you know. So I totally get it, right? But now I think that we're on the other end of the spectrum to where now they're like, oh, now people that look like that are Asian, and that to me is without like so without any disrespect or with no disrespect, that's very selfish because Asia is a region. There are other countries in Asia, right? Like India's part of Asia, Russia's part of Asia, you know? There's parts of Saudi Arabia that are part of Asia, you know? So, or parts of the Middle East that are in Asia. I probably got my geography mixed up right there. But the point is, you have different people of different colors that are technically Asian. So the fact that we're designating it to just one group of people that look Asian to me is very confusing, you know? Um, so my thing is at the end of the day, if I gotta be a color, why doesn't everyone else have to be a color? Right? Like if I'm black, how come other people can't be like other like you got people that say they brown, you got people that are white, but why isn't everyone a color? Right? And then if you say I don't have to be a color because I don't have to, then okay, fuck it. I don't have to be a color then. Right? But then they see people are okay with labeling other people, but they're not okay with labeling themselves and being correct and accurate. See, people don't want to label people the way that they label themselves. That's the root cause of the shit. You know? Like I'm open for shit to just be consistent. Um, but like I said, it just doesn't make sense, right? Um, I'm all about consistency and fairness, you know, and um, what else, man? Oh, I had this. I know I'm gonna catch flack for this, but people can say what the fuck they want. I don't give a shit, right? But I hate when people call me African American, or I hate when they just use that term. They say African American because I guess it sounds proper. It sounds like, hey, we're trying to be nice or whatever and shit. But just calling a person that's black African American, like it's like you don't know where that person came from, right? To me, African American. And look, there's nothing wrong with the word African American. It's just not accurate for me. All right, I had ancestors, all my lineage from slavery, from the time that we were brought over, fought in every war in this country. So to call me an African American is like calling me an immigrant, and I'm not an immigrant. I was born here, right? And I know there's gonna be people out there that like, don't like, man, come on, dude, stop being confusing, man. Like, dude, stop being confusing, man. You're African American. I'm gonna be like, okay, cool. Well, um, if I'm African American, then that means that you must be cool with me calling you European American. No, dude, I'm not. Dude, I'm not from Europe. I don't have any ties to Europe. Motherfucker, same thing. So that's to me is like a root cause of all this shit that we have right now, right? Is that people don't want to call themselves, people want to label other people, but they don't want other people to label them. And no one can ever, like, we can't come to the table to agree on everything as a whole. That's fair, you know? Like, if I gotta be a color, motherfucker, you gotta be a color. You know what I'm saying? Um, if we going by flags, okay, cool. Here's my flag. Here's your flag. So whatever. That's where I stand on that. Whatever. I like to be consistent. I like to be accurate. And it's cool if we don't know the answer, but we need to be converging to something. We just can't be accepting, whatever it is and just say that, well, that's what it is, and that's how it's always. That's how it always has been. Like, nah. Like, that shit don't fly with me. Like, when I have conversations with people like that, even at work, my brain just shuts off and I'm like, you know what? Hold that thought. I gotta take a shit. I'll be right back. I ain't got time for that, man. Like, the moment you turn your brain off and you don't want to think, we got nothing to fucking talk about. If all you want to do is indoctrinate me with the I'm white and I say so, or I'm in charge because I say so, I'm like, man, whatever, man. Get out my face. This conversation is done. Anywho, let's go ahead and take another turn. Let's go ahead and round things out. Now let's go ahead and get on to let's get into the symbology section of the show, right? So, as you know, we talk about things that have to do with simping in this part of the show. Because when I grew up, I was a simp. Like, I didn't know better, but I learned my lesson. So let's start off with a situation. All right. So I had this chick that used to hit me up on the phone, man. Like, from the first time I met her, got her number. I was excited, and she lived in another state, right? She lived like across the country, right? But she was at my job for like a training event for work. So, yeah, so I met her, got her number, and I thought I had no shot with this chick, because she was bad. She was attractive, But it never dawned on me that when I was always calling her, like, why is she talking to me for so long on the phone and she doesn't even, like, we haven't even hung out like that, So we would talk for like hours, like every other week when we were like 2,000 miles away. Like, we would talk on the phone like for hours on a Friday night. And it never dawned on me that, hey, why is this chick talking to you on a Friday night when you over 1,000 miles away from her and shit, So she came to town to visit again for work. And when she came to visit for work again, we talked about hanging out and doing all these things and this, that, and the third. And when she got to town, I'm like excited. I'm making plans. I'm trying to take her around, show her a good time. And she gets in and we're even at work, right? Like, we're on Instant Messenger, like, going back and forth on Instant Messenger. And she's like, yeah, I can't wait to get off. Can't wait to hang out with you. It's been a long time since we actually met up. As soon as she gets home, I call her up and I'm like, hey, whoop, let's go here. And then she hits me with the, I'm tired. I'm just tired. I'm like, oh, all right, well, I'm gonna holler at you later. And then she was like, I'm not too tired to get off the phone. So I'm like, what? So I'm like, look, I'm not gonna be talking to you on the phone when you're less than a mile away from me. We can just go meet up somewhere and go talk. So then because I checked her, she basically got in her feelings and was like, fine, well, make sure you're here in 2 minutes or be here in 5 minutes. Don't be late. So I get there like a little simp. I get there and I drive and I'm, oh shit, I gotta make it, oh my God. So I get there in 4 minutes and 17 seconds, because I timed it. I get there, I'm in the parking lot and I'm like, hey, so-and-so, I'm in the parking lot, like, hey, where you at? Actually, no, I called her. She was like, oh, hey, I had to go drop a friend off, so I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'm like, all right, cool. She's like, yeah, go in the bar and wait for me. I'm like, all right. I get in the bar, 1 hour passes. 2 hour passes. 2.5 hours pass by. I watch this whole football game in the overtime. Then finally this chick show up. And yeah, she attractive. I was like, oh damn. I was mad. I'm like, man, this bitch done fucking stood me up. And then I'm mad. But my thing was I was waiting there like a simp. Like I was sitting there like waiting on this chick. That was my fault. That's where I fucked up. So she strolls in. She a little short chick, but she had a big ass, man. Fat ass, man. She let me keep it PG. All right. She was thick. Bad chick. Right? So she comes in smiling and grinning like she knows she fucked up. And then I'm like mad. I'm sitting there thinking like, yo, if she's like, I gotta go and we don't like do something, I'm gonna be heated. So anyways, what happened? She's like, yeah, you want to come to my room? I was like, hell yeah. I was thinking to myself, hell yeah, you bet your ass I want to come to your room. So almost didn't get that out. Come on, Dre. But anyways, I go to her room and we chit chat, talk or whatever, and then there's 2 separate beds. I'm in one bed, she's in the other bed. We just talking or whatever. And then it's like 2 a.m. I'm like, man, I gotta get ready to go. I gotta go to work in the morning. She was like, oh, you can stay here if you want. I'm like, nah, I gotta go. She's like, you can stay. She said, I'm fucking my story up. I was like, nah, I'm good. I just go ahead and go to bed. She was like, no, I meant you could stay in my bed. So I was like, all right. So I hopped in her bed and, whatever, man. Like, we adults, we grown. We started fooling around a little bit. Nothing happened, you know what I'm saying? Basically she backed off, right? So I said, cool, whatever. Let me go ahead and go home. Let's plan to go meet up again. So my simp ass obviously didn't have enough. So I called her back again. This time I was like, hey, maybe I gotta do more and treat it more like a date. And maybe, she'll, give me some more play. So I remember I made a reservation for this restaurant, fancy restaurant or whatever, and then afterwards we were supposed to go see a movie. So she's supposed to get there by like 7:30. The place closes at like 9:30. So I'm there at 7:30, waiting. I don't hear from this chick. I text her, don't hear from her. Then she calls me like right at like 9:25, and they about to close up the kitchen or whatever. And I'm like, yo, what do you want, man? They about to close up, So I order the food, pay for it, and then we grab it to go, We go see the movie, whatever. That was cool. Go back to the hotel room. Same thing goes down. I'm like, man, whatever, yo. It was like the possibility or the hope for the possibility was dope, but the rest of that shit was trash. But anyways, long story short, I moved to the city where she's in, right, for work, and I'm thinking that things are going to be different, and it's the same. It's like basically she showed. So I didn't have enough common sense to how should I put it? I didn't have enough common sense to realize that that's who she was, right? I thought, oh, maybe if we move to the same state and maybe things will be different. It was like worse, man. It was like, it was worse because she kept me hemmed up on the phone, and I'm thinking, okay, if I stay on the phone with her for X amount of hours, we can go hang out, But really, she would just give me the runaround, So I say all this to say, at the end of the day, what I've learned, I'm glad I had that situation happen to me because I don't fall for that shit no more. If I get a phone chick that just wants to go fuck around on the phone, them the kind of chicks you ghost. Like you don't even deal with that. Like I ain't got time for that, man. Like here it is. Like look, there's nothing wrong with wanting what you want, right? Like if she wants a phone buddy, there's nothing wrong with her having a phone buddy. Just as a man, you have to know what it is that you want. And if you don't want to be a phone buddy, then just don't be a phone buddy. It's that simple, right? So what I should have did back then is when I'm on the phone with her, because she used to like bully me, right? Not like bully, but she used to like give the impression that she was gonna give me some ass if I stayed on the phone with her. But I would stay on the phone with her for a long period of time, just not get no ass. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I should have checked her. I'm not even checked her. I should have just been like, look, hey, look, I don't mean you no harm. It seems like you want a phone buddy. If you want a phone buddy, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not that nigga. All right. So, when you call me, you better be trying to make a plan to go do something, or be willing to hear a plan that I have to put out there for us to go do something. Because if not, I ain't got time for this shit. Find somebody else. And that's all. And that's all I needed to say. And once I said that, then all I had to do at that point was not respond to her, right? And that's how the game worked, So, so fellas, if you getting hemmed up on the phone with a chick that's like ducking and dodging you, just don't do it, man. Don't do it, because I mean, look, you can do what you want, but I'm just saying, 9 times out of 10. She's compartmentalizing you, Like 9 times out of 10, she got some other dude that she's getting dicked down by, and you just the comfort dude. You know what I'm saying? And if you cool with that, by all means, go ahead and do that. Live that life. But that's not for me. Like if I give you time on the phone, if I give a chick a time on the phone, you best believe we gonna be clapping. Or I'm gonna be clapping them cheeks. Like, you know what I'm saying? Cause I ain't got time for that, man. Just nah. That's just me though. That's my preference. I'd rather be a cheek clapper. That sounds weird. I don't want to clap my cheeks. I want to clap her cheeks. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather be smashing than talking on the phone about nothing. Like I said, I ain't got time for that. All right. And this is the last little piece I want to talk about for the simping shit, right? So, I want to talk about phone numbers versus DMs, right? This really shouldn't matter, right? Because right now I think getting a chick's phone number is a thing of the past. Like you don't getting a chick's phone number really don't mean nothing no more, because you got DMs and shit. Like if you go out, like a lot of times I'll go out. So here are my 2 pet peeves, right? When I go out and if I come across a chick and we vibing or whatever, and I want to continue the conversation like later or whatever, and they say, okay, cool, are you on Instagram? I'm like, oh fuck. Because here's the thing, right? I don't like to unfollow people on Instagram. So I'm a person that's hard. I'm a hard follower, meaning that I just don't follow you willy-nilly. That means that if I follow you, it's because I met you, I liked what you're about, and I like what's on your page. But I don't like to unfollow people, because I feel like unfollowing people on social media is very bitch made, Like social media is turning motherfuckers into bitches, Because when you get a new follower or a new friend, they let you know, hey, you got a new follower. Hey, so-and-so is following you. Hey, right? But the moment someone unfollows you, it's like secretive. Like you don't know. All you see is that number drop. That's all you see. All you see is that number drop. And then now it's like, oh man, I gotta search through and see who unfollowed me. And it's like, oh, this motherfucker unfollowed me. So I don't want to be the person that unfollows people. Like I hate unfollowing. But when it comes to that shit, like I don't like it, because here's the thing, right? Females, what I've seen females do is they'll be like, hey, are you on Instagram? Like when you ask for their number, and I'm like, yeah, and then I'll let them follow me, but then at that point I'm like not even really attracted anymore, because I'm like, I gotta sit here and I gotta communicate with this chick over here's what I'll do, right? Here's a methodology I've used for dealing with chicks that give you Instagram accounts instead of their number, right? So when a chick gives me her Instagram, I'll type it in come on, Dre. So what I'll do is I'll type it in on like my notepad, right, on my phone, and then I'll drop them a message or whatever, right? And if there's no if the correspondence doesn't go past like a couple weeks, I don't follow and I let the shit fade because, like I said before, I don't like to unfollow people, you know. Now if a chick shit is private, I'll just charge that to the game. I'm like, man, what the fuck? Like, why are you on social media if you want your shit to be private? Like, that shit to me makes no sense. But that's people's right. That's their prerogative. They can do what they want. But yeah. That's just how I am, right? So, but with that being said, it's like you can communicate with the chick through DMs. Like let's say for example, if you meet up with a chick and y'all exchange IGs or whatever, or you at least get her handle, you can just at that point you texting her. You can just text the chick and be like, yo, I'm here, I'm there, or whatever, right? So that's like one kind of like pet peeve I have, right? Is to go back and to reframe all that. One of my pet peeves is when you are interacting with the chick and you're having a good conversation, like you're flowing back and forth, and you want to go continue the conversation elsewhere, and they want to exchange IGs and shit, right? Because with IG you can just go ahead and and it does. If you give someone an IG, it doesn't seem personal. It's like giving out a business card, you know? Basically, you can uninstall the app or you can hide your notifications from that person. So it's like they really can't really contact you and shit, right? So I think that a lot of women use it as a way to get their following up without really being like, you know, like here's the thing, right? If you're about getting your following up, I probably don't want to fuck with you anyway. So and I'll be able to tell through, you know, those conversations and things like that. But that's like one of my pet peeves is when you're having an interaction with someone, you're conversing and you're having a good time, and then when it comes time to exchange info, they just give you an IG account and shit. And it's like, okay, whatever, cool, I'll make it work. Oh, I have to request you? Nah, I'll pass, I'm good. So that's what I do. That's my method, right? So another pet peeve of mine is when I have a chick's number and I follow them on Instagram, right? And I hate when one of my pet peeves is I don't like it's like twofold, right? I don't like when females hit me up via DM to have a conversation about something when they got my number. Right? Like at that point, I'm like, this shit ain't really that serious because you don't know how I use my IG, or like you don't know what I respond to, you know? And also what it does is it lets them know, like they can see when they see what you sent. So it's kind of like, I just don't like that, right? Now, when it comes time to getting the buns and shit, and they're like, hey, you trying to come and get these buns, I don't care if it's DM or text, but I mean, when it's other stuff like conversational shit, and I got to go back and forth between text messages and DMs, I ain't got time for all that. But I got some chicks that are funny, man. Like what they'll do is when I text them with their number, like they won't respond at all. Like they just won't respond. They won't do anything. But then they'll want to be all in my DMs having a conversation, and I'm like, yo, who you hiding me from? I mean, that's cool. Look, I don't mind being a side dude, but I just want to make sure that I call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? I like to call out the situation for what it is. But anyways, that's my little rant or on the symbology shit. You know what I'm saying? Like all that shit shouldn't matter. Like, but it's like those are just things. That's how I operate. Plus, I got like bigger fish to fry, so I don't really be worrying about getting DMs from loose broads and shit. Like I ain't got time for all that. I mean, I'll entertain it when I'm bored, but for the most part, I got shit to do. Now let's moving into the next portion of the show. Let's get into the comedy bumps portion of the show. See, before it was called comedy trials, but now I've reframed it or renamed it to comedy bumps because it's a bump in the road, right? Like we're all on a journey to go somewhere, and along the journey there are gonna be bumps. So and I've had a whole lot of comedy bumps on my road. So let's talk about it. So last week I talked about a show I did where I was a celebrity. I mean, not. Come on, Dre. I just got tired right there. Like my vocal cords are getting tired and my mouth is getting tired. So I gotta keep training myself to, I'm getting better with time. But anywho, last episode I talked about a show I did with a celebrity comedian like years ago, and how I got duped into being the producer, and I was producing and hosting the show at the same time, and you don't want to do that. So now, around that same time period was the comedy club contest from my home club at the time in Iowa, right? So they had this contest come around, right? So the club went from doing one mic a month on Thursdays where everyone got 3 minutes to a comedy contest, right? Where the winner of the contest would be the club or be the house MC for the comedy club, right? And you got some little cash prize or whatever, and you got more recognition. So so this was my first contest. I got in it, and they had celebrity judges that were judging it, right? So whoever basically was headlining the club that weekend, they would come in and they would judge the show for the contest. So I remember I just thought I had all this energy. I thought I was gonna do well. And I get up there and I was confident, but my material, it wasn't where it needed to be at. But I remember I got up there and I did my jokes. I didn't bring people to the show because I didn't know anyone like that. Actually, I had like one or two people come every now and again. But I brought people to the show, a few people. And every week, man, I just didn't make the cut. So I think they had like 12 people a show, and they took the top 3 each week. The first week, didn't make it. And not only did I not make it, but they had these little judge sheets, and I still got my judge sheets in my little comedy bin. And those comments on there were like brutal, man. They were like, "Yo, not funny." Like they said all kind of things on my shit. Not funny, not original. I've seen your act before. You have a good comedy heart, but this might not be for you. Just like nitpicking everything, right? So every week I got cut. So I would watch 3 new people graduate and make it to the final competition. So I went there every week after week for 4 weeks straight, didn't make it. Right? So on the 4th week, we had our competition in it wasn't in the club at the time because the club got flooded. So they moved it to this like ballroom or whatever. So I do that contest or I do that round, don't make it. But at the end of the competition or at the end of that round, the manager at the time was like, "Yo, I like you. I like your work ethic. I'm going to create a wild card spot and you're going to be the wild card." So at that point, I felt fucked up because I don't like people giving me shit. I like to earn everything I get, And I felt like he was having sympathy for me, and I felt like I really just didn't feel good about the situation, right? So I got angry, and I locked myself in my room, and I wrote the best jokes I could write because we had like 2 weeks before the finals. I wrote down all these jokes. Had these little cards. I wrote them on these little card decks because I was trying to quiz myself on my material, and I was going ham every day, super hard, man, just reciting my material. And when I got to the contest, one of the headliners from the club. He was a judge on the final competition. So he saw me, and he said something that stuck to me to this day. He saw me and was like, he's like, Dre, you're funny. You're a funny guy. But look, when you're in a contest, he said, look, he says, when you get on stage, the first word out of your mouth should be your first joke. You know, he said, get up there, joke 1, joke 2, joke 3, thank you, good night. Don't get up there, don't fuck around, don't dick around, don't say, hey, how's the audience doing? Hey, give it up for so-and-so. Hey, nah, joke 1, joke 2, joke 3, thank you, good night, leave the fucking stage, right? So I added that piece to like, or I added that thought process to the jokes that I was, come on, Dre. So I added that thought process to the jokes I was gonna do, and we did it in this little. It was like in this bar room, but it was like a side room, like little bar. It was packed though. It was like it was well lit. They had the speakers up there and everything. It was great sound, and I remember I got up there. And it was packed. It was like 100 people in that room. It's like it was 100 people packed in that room. And I think I went like either second. I forgot. I think I went early on. I think, or I went like in the middle. And I went up there, and I look back at them jokes. Now them jokes weren't shit, but just my energy and just my anger. Like I was able to channel my energy into like performance, and just being like super expressive. And when I got up there and I was doing my shit, people were rolling, you know? And when I got off stage, the judges thought I was a feature act. Like they were like, oh, you're in the contest? I thought you were a feature because you were murdering that shit. And I was like, and they weren't just saying that, like they were like, yo, who the fuck is this, you know? So at the end of the contest, I didn't win. I got second, but people were coming up to me after the show. And they were like, yo, just so you know, I thought you were the funniest, but I had to vote for so-and-so because he invited me to the show, or because they invited me to the show, right? So they were telling me that, 'cause I think I brought like maybe like 2 people, or one person came to my show, or one person came to come see me. So after that, like I got respect in that area or in that little club, right? So I would always go to the shows after that, and I would try to like I basically was like the backup host, right? So I basically was sitting there watching what they were doing, waiting for my opportunity, you know, and maybe like 6 months later or so, I think I got an opportunity to actually host my first show. The first show I ever hosted was with these 2 comedians. Mike McRae was the headliner, and Jonathan Greenberg was the feature. Right, so that was like my first time actually being the host or hosting a comedy show. So in a comedy club. But the bumps were, so this is more, I guess, of like a Victoria story. But the bump was, I just kept getting rejected, like week after week. Not funny enough. Reading the comments, you're not funny, not original, not this, not that. You know. And then I got the wild card spot. And I'm like, man, they trying to give out charity and shit here? Like, what the fuck is this? You know? But later on, when that manager, me and the manager, we went out to eat with his family or whatever one night. This was like a few weeks after, maybe a few months after the competition. And at first he was like really like super stern, but then he was like real cool with me. And he said, yo, Dre, he said, man, I'm telling you right now, you gonna be something. You funny. Like I saw it in you. That's why I gave you the wild card spot. You know, so I wouldn't have done that for anybody else. This, that, and the third. And I'm like, wow. So at that point, I thought I made it, but I ain't make shit. Like, I mean, it was a step up. You know, like I stepped up. I gotta watch that term. I don't like the term stepped up because someone else uses the term step up and it means something totally different. But it was a cornerstone, or it was a stepping stone, right, in my career, you know. So, but those bumps hurt, man, you know. but that's how I got to be, or that's part of how I got to be where I'm at now. So, what else we got going on? Let me go and wrap this up because we're well over an hour right now. Um, so I think my next show or my next podcast, I'm going to talk. Come on, Dre. I think my next episode or my next podcast, I'm gonna talk about what was my next bump after that. I'm trying to think. What was the next bump? Um, the next bump would be, I would say, it's a minor bump, but it's a cold bump, right? With me and my boy Sharp. So the next bump I'm gonna talk about is trying to get open mic started in Iowa. That's gonna be the next bump. It's gonna be a short bump, but it's funny because it's like there's some little funny stories. It's some funny little nuances to the story. So I'm gonna talk about that. You know, trying to get open mic started where I was at. That's gonna be the next comedy bump. But man, so much to talk about in this episode. So much to talk about. So the 18th is coming up. April 18th, 4/18 is a day that I will never forget because that's the day my pop died. All right, so I'm trying to like think of some things to do to remember my pops. I mean, I'm never gonna forget the motherfucker, but I want to not the motherfucker. I'm never gonna forget my pops, but it's like I want to make sure that I do something every year around this time to commemorate, you know, his life because you know, it's a tough time, man. It's been a year, hasn't felt like a year, but yeah, man. Yeah, I remember this day like it was like yesterday because on April 10th, that's when I got the text from my sister about, hey, Pops is, you know, he's we had to get him to the emergency room because his kidneys are kind of failing or whatever. So, but he's gonna be okay. All he has to do is get some fluid in him, and he'll be fine. And I'm thinking, okay, hospital, he should be fine, no big deal. And this is all at the height of COVID. So every day I'm like praying and like calling, trying to make sure everything's all right. Then as the days go on, like around the I think it's around the 14th, my mom calls and I can hear it in her voice. She was like, yeah, it don't look too good for your pop because they need to do dialysis and they're not going to be able to because of like his blood pressure or something like that. So they were like working with doctors and they were just like, yeah, no, we just got to hope for the best. So then he went from that to like palliative care, right? So at this point, you know, you got palliative care, then you got hospice, right? And hospice is like a more serious form of palliative care, but typically you don't come off of either, you know. But people have come off of hospice, but I mean, it typically it once you hit those stages, like that's pretty much the road that goes downward, right? So I'm thinking to myself, okay, if he's on palliative care, that means that there'll be enough time for me to, you know, to see if this pandemic is gonna like kind of like die, like, you know, like die down, and I'll be able to go slip on a flight and go see him. But this was when it was raging, you know, and we're like here a year later, you know. So I remember I did the first Zoom. So we Zoomed with him on we Zoomed with him either on the 15th or the 16th. I gotta look at these dates, but it was like the 15th or the 16th. And we did the first Zoom. And I'm thinking, okay, he's either gonna be like out of it, or, you know, if he's up, he's gonna be able to say a few things, you know. And I dialed in on the Zoom. It was it was 5 windows, and the nurse that was in there taking care of my pop had on this like hazmat suit, like it looked like something out of a movie, just a hazmat suit, and she put the camera on my pop, you know, and He was just breathing like he ran a marathon. Like I ain't never seen my dad breathe that hard, man. Um, and he was trying to say something, but you could tell he was really struggling, man. Like, so I just looked and I was like, yo, this might be it, man. I was like, man. So I just said, hey, Pop, I love you, man. Hey, man, keep fighting. I'm gonna see you tomorrow. Or yeah, or we'll talk tomorrow. And he was just breathing, like his eyes were open. He was breathing, but he just couldn't. Like he was, man, it was painful to watch, man. And then my mom called me like right after that and was like, she kind of just knew. Cause my mom's a nurse and she just knows. So the 18th, we planned another Zoom, and I dialed into the Zoom. Well, first my mom called, but I didn't answer the phone. I forgot why I didn't answer. No, I didn't answer because I was getting ready to get on the Zoom call. So I got on the Zoom, and instead of there being 5 windows, there were 4. And when I signed in, I was the last one to sign in. Everyone just looked at me, and they were just like, yeah, he's gone. So, man. And then on top of that, like, the thing that sucks, man, was like I wasn't able to, like, we weren't able to really like have like a memorial for him, right? Like, to like be around people, to like hug people and stuff, because of the pandemic, So, we wanted to, yeah, it was a real rough time. So it's weird because I haven't. It's like I've grieved for my pop, but I haven't like had time to like grieve like the normal way. Like typically, like you go in, you see the body, right? You at least get to see the body, right? And then when you see the body, it's like that's it. You go hug your family, you hug your friends, you talk about the good times, and then you kind of have closure, but you still got the memories that are there. This was kind of like we did a Zoom funeral, and once it was over, like that was it. And then we had a Zoom meeting with other like friends and family, and we like kind of just talked about other things, but it wasn't the same, And the one thing I thought that like wasn't, the one thing I thought about that was ironic, and that to me was like the real messed up part about all this was my dad. He was a doctor, you know what I'm saying, and he always ran around to check on people's health, man. Like he was always making errands. Oh, I gotta go check on so and so. Like they're in the hospital, they're not doing well. I gotta go make sure that they get linked up with this specialist. Or oh, I gotta go check on so and so to see how they're doing. Make sure that their spirits are up. Because I gotta go get them. I gotta go drop off some medication to them, and then I gotta make sure that. And he was always running around, right? And like he was always like the hub. Like he always was. Like he always knew like he always knew the health status of other people. Like he'd be the one that let me know, hey Dre, just so you know, so and so's not doing well. You got to go check in with him, go say your goodbyes or whatever, right? Or hey, so and so, hey, like he was always the one that was kind of like managing everything, man. And the fact that he was in a hospital during the pandemic, in an emergency room, with a nurse in a hazmat suit on that was basically like tending to him, and nobody else could be in that room. That really hurt, man, because it was like he gave so much to make sure that people were good, but it was like there was no one. Like we were there on Zoom and we were like there, but there was no one physically there. You know what I mean? So I'm never gonna get over that. Like that's just the way the cookie crumbles in this case, but that's life. But I gotta make sure I do something to remember Pops on the 18th and his birthday every year, man. Or on the 18th and on his birthday, October 9th. Anywho, man, I gotta wrap this joint up. So what's up next? Up next is But I don't like leaving on a bad note, my pop, because I felt like that was kind of weird. But I have a lot of funny photos of my pop, where we had good times and we laughed. And I think I'm gonna post like one of those photos this week because he took some he took some funny photos, man. So I do this one joke where it's an old joke. It's probably one of the first real bits that I've had. I still might do it every now and again, but I've done this joke at least 500 times, if not more. But basically, it has to do with the four fingers, right? And I'm not gonna give away the joke here, but people that know my comedy and know my set, like they know that they know what this is. And there's a photo of me and my pop at a track meet, and he's doing this. And he's like, he's doing this, and I'm laughing like how I'm laughing now. So yeah, I'm probably gonna post that joint. People don't know where it came from now. Like, so that's a real like story or whatever. Or the joke that I do about that is real. But anyways, if you haven't already, man, like this video, subscribe, tell a friend, tell a friend, and tell a friend. Please add comments in the comment section so I can know what to talk about. But yeah, you can find me on all forms of social media at AT is where it's at. Follow me. Let's see what else we got coming up next, man. Up next, we got Fourth Wall mic. I'll be doing a mic today at 1 p.m. at the Fourth Wall. I'm working out some new quarantine material, and I got to make sure that when things open up again, I can hit the road running, and I can sprint to the egg. Then I got a liar mic or a locked in a room mic on Monday. I'm doing that joint from like 6 to like 7:30, and I'm still waiting on this virtual chocolate sundaes competition information. I advanced back in late March, so yeah, so that's TBD for right now. But when I let you know, as soon as I know, you'll know. So with all that being said, thanks again for tuning in, and I'm out of here. Peace.